So there was this kid from the projects who was raised by a single illiterate parent. This is the same kid that had nothing to lose. There were drugs all around when they were growing up, and there was crime, there were shootings. But this kid ended up spending all their time in the library just to get a step ahead. His mom made him go to the library for free daycare until she got home. This kid grew up to make his first million in his early 20s and became a multi-millionaire by the age of 24. I'm that kid in the library, the same guy who made millions in his early 20s. I am Munif Ali. My family was typical in a way, typical middle income. My mom had dedicated her life to being a homemaker, and while I didn't know it at the time, but she was illiterate. She married my dad at an early age, and she had no skills that were marketable at the time, other than making sure that the household was running smoothly and everybody had everything they needed, which is a job in itself. However, back in those days, there were a lot of other issues. Then my dad decided to leave, and he left a huge economic hole for us. We went from middle income to no income. And if you've ever had no income, you know the difference between low and no. And that's when my mom had to make a very quick choice, either become homeless or move her family to the Hunters Point housing projects. At that time, crack cocaine had just started to hit the streets. And there was a lot of entrepreneurship going on around the block. People were hustling and selling. That's where I really started to see hand-to-hand sales on a big level. People were willing to do absolutely anything to make the money to be able to buy the drugs. And I really learned a lot in those years. From being shot at to being jumped, I had friends and family members go to jail, and I seen some of my friends die on the streets. I remember standing in line with my head down while waiting for government cheese in some kind of a welfare line. Other kids would pass these lines up getting to the bus, and I would have my head down so they wouldn't see me. My mom was too proud, though, to get on welfare, but she would wheel and deal in food stamps all the time, trading up, getting some cash, doing whatever she could to make ends meet. Even at that time, she provided us with a sense of morals and integrity. She would never find excuses for anything, and I learned a lot from my mom. I always tell people everything I learned about being a strong man came from the perspective of a woman. She had 3 jobs, and she would go out there and work 2 jobs, and on the weekends, she would clean people's houses all day long. And I had the pleasure of being with her. The reason why I say pleasure is I really learned my grind at that time. I would go to other people's homes that she would clean. They were better to do than us. And I would see how they were living, what kind of toys they had, what kind of clothes they had. And in all those years, I witnessed my mom work her tail off without excuses. My brother quit high school early and did odd jobs, everything from paper routes to, working, to cleaning, to doing whatever he could. And they pulled together the money needed so that they can buy a house. My mom was hardworking, and she embodied that grind culture that's so popular now with hashtags and girl boss and this and that. It wasn't so back then. I never saw my mom call in sick or take a personal day off. And after 4 years of working hard and pooling all the money that the family made together, we moved out of the projects just a few blocks away, right up the street. Same neighborhood, but different circumstances. You still encountered the same crime. You still encountered the same people. But how it felt to actually own a home was very different. At the beginning of our life in the project, mom didn't have cash to put me in daycare, right? So instead, I would spend time at neighbors' houses and in friends' houses, and I started to pick up books. And when I got a little bit older, my mom would tell me to go from school and go all the way to the library and stay there until it closed. So after she worked her 2 shifts, she would come to the library and pick me up. And oftentimes it would be closed by the time she got there, and I would be sitting outside reading a book. But what I did at the library makes all the difference today for me. I would absorb everything I could get my hands on as a method to escape the environment. Sometimes it was hunger. Sometimes it was not having all the fresh gear that everybody else had. Sometimes it was to escape loneliness. I'm trying not to get emotional, but I really don't talk about all this, but I really wanted you to know what my story was. It was a wonderful thing for me to see someone who didn't have the education, nor the training, nor did they have courses to take. And there wasn't any instructional manuals. But my mom literally saved every dime she could, and she managed to continue to save that money until she was able to buy that house And then later on, she went on to buy a triplex and more property. Those early years prepared me to learn as much as I could. And as I got older and continued my own grind and worked multiple jobs, somewhere along the way, I said to myself, I've learned about real estate from my mom, and I'm going to multiply that. And those lessons stuck with me. And after I joined the military, I used all of that time as well to learn as much as I could about my passion for real estate. The majority of my net worth right now comes from real estate, whether it was flipping houses or converting condos or building spec homes or selling real estate. I was in the construction and development game very early on. And before I knew it, I was in a position to go to the bank with $1 million checks. I don't say it to brag or gloat, but I say it to give you, the listener, the opportunity to understand that anything is possible as long as you put your commitment and focus into it. And I'm only here to tell you that this guy who stood in line to get government cheese, that got shot at repeatedly, that went through all types of trials and tribulations, and I had the chips stacked up against me. Being a fatherless kid with an illiterate mother in the projects, I was guaranteed to go to jail, but that's not what happened. When the world came crashing down in 2008, that's when I remembered what it was like not to have things again and lose things. I lost a lot of business. I lost a lot of properties. I had to quickly act and turn some things around. I failed, and I failed hard, and it was a one-man operation that I was trying to salvage. But one thing was for sure, this was also the greatest period of my life. I had failed because I didn't think big enough. I put all my eggs into one basket, a basket that had always provided for me. I didn't diversify. I was doing everything by myself up until 2008, and I didn't know how successful people got to where they were. I was more successful than I had ever dreamed possible, but I didn't take it to the next level. And that's where leverage comes in. During that time, I learned to leverage through people who were smarter than me, who were more knowledgeable than me, who had more wisdom than me to perform tasks that I couldn't efficiently do myself or competently do myself. I started applying the principle of finding the right people, and I redeemed my businesses from the recessions. And I came back and I bounced back and I built greater than ever. And once again, going from the ground up with a clear direction and bigger goals. Because if someone's not laughing at your goals, you're not dreaming big enough. And that's what I did. I dreamt as big as possible. Then I went out and found the people who can make my goals come true. I didn't want to fail again. I had to look seriously inside myself and think about what was it that made this kid successful in the first place. I wrote down everything from all the habits that I had from a very early age when I was working multiple jobs. I meant working up early, how I was able to save money, how I was able to invest money. And you know, in those early days, after the military, I drove an old beat-up Toyota Tercel around for more than a decade with over 200,000 miles on it. But I was already worth millions at that point. I would even go out with my friends, and I wasn't ashamed of just ordering some water. It was okay, because I had that focus and that plan. I knew that every dime that passed through my hands was going to be a dime that would go towards my success, and that eventually I would make money and I would be able to invest wisely. Those are the kind of things that I did, and writing down all of those principles led me to what I call now empower. I'm not your typical multimillionaire. Sure, I've closed billions of dollars in sales. I've got hundreds of properties in Southern California, and I've made a lot in business. But I've also failed. However, I don't own a Lamborghini. I don't live in a mansion. I don't own a jet, nor do I see any reason why I should. But one thing is for sure, I have the knowledge, the expertise, and the experience to help you out. I'm here to give you real and honest advice, and that is coming from here. I'm here to teach you about personal finance and how to develop yourself to become more successful in life and in business and in whatever you want to pursue. My advice will hit you hard sometimes. It will hurt your feelings sometimes. My advice will make you rethink stuff. My advice might even break you down a bit. But this is what I call empower life. I teach people that through hard work, determination, and sheer mindset, everything is possible. My purpose is to help you reach your financial and your personal development goals with absolutely free content. You don't have to pay for anything if you don't want to. Just real wisdom. And I always feel that real wisdom should be free. That's what I'm giving you. I've been blessed in life, and this isn't my only thing. Matter of fact, I don't have to work another day in my life, but I choose to because it's become my mission to inform as many people as possible that it's possible. I'm hoping that you'll find value and engage with the content that I bring you so that you can reach your goals and uplift yourself and the people that you care about the most. I know there's plenty of people giving you advice at some type of cost or another. I'm not here to knock anyone else either. We can have an abundant life if we just believe in ourselves and are willing to put in the hard work and dedication, and most of all, if we're ready to pay it forward and teach someone else.